Coming up, the plan to develop a long-term economic blueprint and make it stick. Straight ahead, where the Prime Minister says this is most important.
Growing by leaps and bounds, what officials have been doing to exterminate the population of toxic toads.
And convicted murderer Kofi Goodman expected to learn his fate tomorrow. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
The formation of a national economic development plan is now underway. Good evening, everyone. I'm Candino Knowles.
I'm Kish Latterly. Thanks so much for joining us. Stakeholders from a wide cross-section of agencies assembled for the official opening of a National Development Planning Workshop at the British Colonial Hilton Hotel today. They were there to start mapping out an economic plan for the country. Minister of Finance, the Honourable Perry Christie, officially opened this morning's event, a collaboration between the Office of the Prime Minister and the Inter-American Development Bank. Prime Minister Christie lamented that successive governments have come and gone without implementing plans, to the detriment of continuity, especially where the Family Islands are concerned.
That this will not succeed. No effort at national planning will succeed without the recognition that the people of our country must play a significant role in the development of such a plan. Because I wanted to commend to you that you buy into this exercise, that you make this a very meaningful exercise for the country, that the University of Bahamas will take ownership of a position on this planning unit and be an integral part of it, because you will provide the continuity.
Inter-American Development Bank Bahamas representative Astrid Winters predicted the plan will be completed by early 2014 and implemented by that summer. She outlined the bank's role in the planning process.
They are to ensure macroeconomic sustainability, social stability, employment, and increased resilience to the negative impacts of climate change. Priority areas under the strategy are therefore: 1, public finances and management, and this initiative that the government has asked us to support falls under that pillar; citizen security and justice, energy, private sector development, and last but not least, coastal risk management and climate change adaptation.
Prime Minister Perry Christie also revealed details of a recent meeting with Opposition Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis. A picture of the meeting between the two was emailed to the press yesterday. The nation's leader said they were discussing anticipated changes to the Constitution after a planned referendum and nothing more.
My meeting was about the constitutional recommendations from the Constitutional Commission. And how do we proceed in a referendum towards ensuring that the people of the country have an opportunity to clearly consider the implications of not voting to remove sexual discrimination and gender discrimination, because we have adhered to international treaties and we will be the subject of great amusement if we do not understand the significance of that. So clearly, I wanted unanimity in the approach. And to a great extent, we were able to talk about governance and the tragic implications of politics causing one to move away from agreed positions and therefore not necessarily work in the best interest of the country.
Minister for the Environment Ken Dorset has dismissed a claim by Deputy Leader of the Free National Movement, Loretta Butler Turner, that the government is keeping the country in the dark over its financial dealings with the Bahamas Petroleum Company. The company recently had its license returned under the terms that it meets certain environmental obligations.
Minister Dorset's comments follow published statements by BPC CEO Simon Potter. He is quoted in a local daily as saying that investment returns would be second to none from a simple royalty if the company struck oil. As Foreign Carry reports, Minister Dorset maintains that royalties were agreed upon when the license was issued 8 years ago.
Insisting that there is nothing to hide, Minister of the Environment Ken Dorset says the matter involving Bahamas Petroleum Company is nothing new, and comments attributed to BPC CEO Simon Potter were reportedly misrepresented.
I spoke with Mr. Potter because I was concerned with the manner in which his statements were printed. He indicated to me that he was misquoted, but I haven't seen his comments or what he said to his investors. If he has an opinion on the royalty provisions which were negotiated 8 years ago, then that's certainly his opinion. Moving forward, I certainly would hope that when a government negotiates terms, that we are a little more aggressive in terms of the benefits that would accrue to the Bahamian people.
Our news team made several attempts to contact Bahamas Petroleum Company executives, but our calls were not returned. Meanwhile, Minister Dorset maintains royalties given to BPC are significantly high compared to the price of oil when their license was issued and compared to other oil companies that have operated outside of the country.
When one is issued exploratory license, the royalty fees associated with the production is determined at the time that you issue the license for exploration. But in 1997, the royalties that were given to Liberty Oil was far less than the royalties given in 2005 to BPC.
As he sought to clarify the issue, Dorset said legislation is currently being drafted which has to be in place before any referendum takes place.
Because I don't want misinformation to be put in the public domain and cause, political mischief to be at hand for something that is clearly straightforward, clearly factual, and the legislation governs this entire regime. And the new legislative dispensation, I think, is going to address a number of the things that even the public have been asking us to consider, including a sovereign fund and the like. And so certainly if the Bahamian people determine that this is an industry that we're going to develop for Bahamians in terms of capacity, in terms of jobs, in terms of entrepreneurial opportunities, then we will provide a regime that can last for the next 25, 50 years for the country.
The Environment Minister added that the Commonwealth Secretariat is assisting the government by providing advice on financial modeling and helping us to build capacity. His ministry plans to release information on all oil licensed companies to bring clarity to the entire process. Foreign Carry, ZNS Network News.
Still on the environment, officials are using a freezing method to kill the invasive species of cane toads that has been found on the western end of the island. Environment Minister Ken Dorset revealed today that in excess of 200 adult toads have been captured and killed, along with thousands of smaller toads. He reiterated that residents who see cane toads should not come into close contact with them and contact officials as soon as possible. Minister Dorset also pointed out that despite the large number of toads that have been captured, they do not believe the toads can be found in other parts of the island. He is confident that the animals are isolated in Western New Providence.
With such big numbers, do you still think that it's still isolated in that western area of the island?
Well, thus far, based on our reports, it seems to be. There have been very few reports to us outside of that particular area. But as I said, I would like the Bahamian public to continue to remain vigilant. If you see any sightings, to report it to us. We're also getting the Food Agricultural Organization, the FAO, involved in this process, because it is an invasive species, and we want to see we want to develop a proper plan to ensure that it doesn't spread throughout the island and elsewhere.
Meanwhile, Minister Dorset noted that environmental officials are still concerned about what enters our borders unnoticed.
Well, that is another discussion. I mean, we've addressed the issue with customs and other bodies through finance.
Concern though that you really don't know.
It's an ongoing concern. I mean, the reality is we have to make sure that we check the things that come into the borders of this country, not just at Laifaki, but throughout the archipelago. But right now, the focus is containment of the cane toad, because as I've indicated beforehand, they reproduce at significant levels, and so it's something that we are not taking lightly.
National Training Agency Director Agatha Marcel is appealing for more openness from the local business community when it comes to the employment of young people. She told the Rotary Club of West Nassau today that all is not lost with the nation's youth and dispel the notion that Bahamians are untrainable and unemployable.
I don't know how you could say that if you don't attempt to train them or attempt to employ them. Now, I have a real issue with that. And I have an issue with the faction that was coming from. They know I have an issue with that. Because the day, I don't think any of us want to see the day when this country imports service workers and support workers and all that. You don't want to see that day, trust me. Because if you think we are having societal problems now, there will be no society. So we need to get real and stop saying what they can't do and what they won't do when we are not helping them to do anything.
Marcel revealed that 96% of the 452 youngsters who recently completed the agency's workforce preparatory program don't even possess one Bahamas Junior certificate. She explains the essential need for the agency.
I commend the government for having the wisdom to do this initiative, to start it. The reason for that is it does not interfere with any other institution that has been established. These are the young people I'm talking about who cannot get into College of the Bahamas because of their criteria.
Businesses are expected to submit proposals very soon to advise the government on the implementation of the Foreign Accounts Tax Compliance Act, or FACTA. Financial Services Minister Ryan Pinder provided an update on the government's progress to members of the Bahamas Financial Services Board during its annual general meeting last evening. The government appointed an inter-ministerial committee on FACTA under the leadership of the Ministry of Financial Services to prepare an implementation strategy to include a draft FACTA agreement.
That RFP will be issued this week with a time frame for responses in October, and then selection, and then with a work program that's fairly aggressive for the winning firm. So we look to hopefully be in the early months of 2014 in a position to have the report and recommendations to the government on what it would entail, what it would cost, and advancing that to cabinet so we can be ahead of the game on FATCA implementation with respect to the competent authority.
Now, with respect to value-added tax, Minister Pinder says the government is looking to have extensive public consultation within the industry on how VACT will affect various businesses.
I would hope that you would understand at a certain policy level those consultations are intergovernmental agency consultations. I would hope that I have the confidence of the industry to know that I'm advocating on your behalf and understand the implications along with my director adequately, and then we will bring it to industry. Not to say what we bring to industry is set in stone, but to say this is the framework we have now, give us your input. Ultimately, it is modifiable until ultimate passage. So that's the plan on how we're going to advancing the issue with respect to that.
In our first look at weather, that frontal boundary across southern Florida will start making its way towards the south later tonight, bringing with it some showers and thunderstorms. But outside of our studios just now, we have partly cloudy skies, temperature 84 degrees, relative humidity 71%. Your winds are out of the west at 9 knots, barometric pressure 1,010.9 millibars. It's 29.85 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned. Temperatures around the Family Balance. Travel and boating forecast is still to come.
Well, still ahead tonight, a celebration of youth is coming up.
And later on in sports, the LPGA Classic returns to the Bahamas. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news is brought to you by Lux Men's Warehouse.